Or if not Harris, a reasonable facsimile. President Trump arriving for the G7 summit in France with the wind at his back after landing a deal with Iran to end the war that has snarled a crucial waterway and spiked global energy prices. It comes after months of talks, public blow-ups, escalating tensions, and a last-minute Israeli strike on Beirut. I'm John Roberts, in for Harris Faulkner today, and you are in the Faulkner Focus. The president's trip to Europe followed news of the U.S. and Iran finalizing a memorandum of understanding. The deal is expected to halt the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports, reopen the Strait of Hormuz, and extend the U.S.-Iran ceasefire for 60 days for talks on Iran ending its nuclear program. Exact details of the deal not public yet, and likely won't be until closer to a signing ceremony Friday in Switzerland. Here's Vice President J.D. Vance.
What this deal does fundamentally is two things. It immediately reopens the Straits of Hormuz. We're already seeing in the past 24 hours more traffic flow. You see oil prices coming down. But you also have the long-term commitment that Iran will never develop or procure a nuclear weapon. Those are two very big wins for the American people. Fundamentally, we have the leverage. We have the diplomatic, economic, and military leverage. But we also are extending an open hand to the Iranians and saying, if you guys negotiate in good faith and you make that long-term commitment not to develop nuclear weapons, then we are going to make sure that your country is successful.
President Trump also praising the agreement in a post online, writing, quote, the leaders of the region have, for the first time, found a president who can help them achieve real peace with the opening of the strait upon the signing of the deal on Friday. For purposes of mine removal, oil will flow on both ends again for the region and the world. Victoria Coates is the former Deputy National Security Advisor to President Trump during his first administration. She will join me in just moments, but first to our senior White House correspondent, Peter Doocy, who's live on the shores of Lake Geneva and kicks off our coverage from Evian-les-Bains. Peter.
And John, good morning. A small group from the Iranian regime is coming here to Switzerland to shake hands, rather to meet with either Vice President Vance or President Trump, who is just across the river, just across the border in France, to shake hands and let the world know that this war is over.
Well, we already signed the deal digitally yesterday, and there's been no money released, and that won't change, George. Again, this is a performance-based thing. If we see the Iranians making, for example, taking action to eliminate their stockpile of enriched material, then yes, sanctions relief will follow. If we see the Iranians taking action to allow the kind of verification regime that we need to see to know that they're not going to build a nuclear weapon, yes, sanctions relief will follow.
President Trump says ships are starting to move, many loaded up with oil, out of the Strait of Hormuz. They are going along the southern highway, which is totally safe, secure, and pristine. There are other areas of travel also. Democrats, though, just want to make sure that this agreement is better than the one Barack Obama signed with Iran a decade ago.
The point the president just made, that they've agreed not to develop a nuclear weapon, they did that with President Obama's JCPOA. That was an agreement they held to of not developing nuclear weapons. So we have spent billions of dollars. We've lost 14 personnel killed in action, hundreds wounded, and we've disrupted the world economy, and we're getting basically less than what we had under the JCPOA, which President Trump walked away from.
Mm-hmm. Within the next couple days, we expect the Iranian regime to try to claim some kind of a victory in these negotiations, too. That could be sanctions relief. That could be accounts getting unfrozen. We just don't know exactly what they have signed on to. And we don't know what the holdup is because they have already signed on to it. John.
All right, well, we'll see what the days ahead bring. Peter Doocy kicking us off live on the shores of Lake Geneva. Thank you so much, Peter. Let's bring in Victoria Coates, former Deputy National Security Advisor to President Trump, also Vice President of the National Security at the Heritage Foundation. And according to President Trump, you're absolutely fantastic, and you get it like few other people do. So we're glad to have you on today.
Well, thank you very much, John.
So the president is heading into the Hotel Royale in Evian. to be before a group of leaders who basically told him to pound sand when he went into Iran. It's going to be a little uncomfortable, I would think, for those leaders now that the president has got this memorandum of understanding, it looks like, in the bag.
No, it is. And this is going to be the first of two, I think, quite fraught engagement with the European partners over the course of the next couple of weeks. We have the G7 this week, and then we will have the NATO summit, which will also have, I think, some fairly difficult conversations. These are conversations between friends, and we want the transatlantic relationship to be strong. But there's no getting around the fact that a lot of these economies that the president will be meeting with in Evian were not helpful during the Iran engagement.
They ran away.
They ran away, and they could have stayed quiet. They missed an opportunity to just say nothing, which is always an option. And they instead came out and condemned it in the case of Spain, even the United Kingdom, and proved themselves incapable of mounting any military assistance. The UK could not get a single destroyer into the Mediterranean to defend their own assets on Cyprus for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
This is the British Navy we're talking about, John. It's pitiful.
Yeah, I remember a time, and it was a long time ago, that the British Navy was the most powerful naval force in the world. No more. So President Trump said that the oil will start moving right away. It looks like that's not going to happen until Friday. But here's what Kepler Intelligence and Tracking Company says. It estimates that about 500 large commercial vessels are currently in the Gulf. In a statement, the company is saying, quote, "Our latest estimate is that a return to normal shipping patterns would likely take months rather than weeks. Even if the strait is considered reopened, this does not automatically mean traffic will normalize immediately. Vessels that have been delayed or held back would need time to exit, complete voyages, and potentially return for new loadings. That process could roughly take 2 to 3 months. So it's not just the oil that has been stuck in the Persian Gulf during this conflict for the last almost 3 months. But it's also the fact that these ships probably would have gone to their home ports, returned, filled up again, and gone back. So we're kind of behind the 8 ball here a little bit.
A little bit, but I think, Kepler is by its nature, and this is its business, which I wouldn't presume to tell them how to do it, but they are an extremely conservative organization, and they don't want to set wrong expectations. One thing we will have, though, is we're going to continue to have the exploitation of the pipelines, especially Saudi Petroline, which was providentially installed by the Saudis in the 1980s, and that can continue to pump those 7 million barrels a day. And we have the increased U.S. capacity to export natural gas through Golden Pass in Texas, another huge thing that came online right in the middle of the war, and the reason we haven't seen any escalation in natural gas prices. So I think those things will continue to mitigate even as we move through the backlog that Kepler identifies.
Yeah, even China's increased its import of U.S. oil. Do you think that we actually make it to a signing on Friday, or do you think hardliners in Iran will try to derail this process?
Oh, of course they will. And it's Iran. So I think we're in for a sporty couple of days, but I have all confidence in President Trump. And, with all due respect to Senator Jack Reed, I was serving in the Senate when the JCPOA was implemented, and nobody signed anything. The first thing that's different about this deal is that the president is setting up a signing ceremony, potentially to include himself as head of state.
Yeah, he's right across the lake.
Right. Barack Obama never did anything like that. Nobody signed anything. And it was implemented by the United Nations Security Council, and they never even tried to get it passed through the Senate as a treaty. So everything is completely different in this deal. We'll wait till we see the details, but that, to my mind, is the first indicator that this is a much more serious agreement.
I mean, he might wrap up the G7, take the helicopter across the lake and sit down with the Iranians. That would be something, wouldn't it? Yeah. So the one thing that people here in America are looking forward to is some relief from high gas prices. I bought it in the northern part of Maryland for $3.69 at Arroyo Farms yesterday, which was pretty good. But oil crude prices are falling to below $80 a barrel this morning. Last time we saw crude oil prices around 80 was back in March. As all of this was just getting underway. International benchmark Brent crude also sinking below $84 a barrel. This development comes as gas prices continue to trickle lower, sitting around $4.07 nationally for a gallon of regular. It's down from $4.53 a month ago. If the Strait of Hormuz is open and these tankers begin to transit, just like nothing ever happened, how long do you think it'll be before we get down below $3?
Well, again, I don't have a crystal ball. So predicting gas prices is probably not my strong suit. I will say, though, I can feel it too. When I filled up over last weekend, it was lower than it had been. And, we're going into one of the biggest weeks in our nation's history, our 250th anniversary at Heritage. We're so excited about this, doing a great deal of preparation for it. And I think it's going to be wonderful to have this successful military engagement brought to a conclusion that keeps the American people safer and then hopefully drops from the headlines. The United States should be focused on all the great and good things that are happening here in our country, starting with lower gas prices so everybody can drive more over that long 4th of July weekend. We'll have airline ticket prices coming down. This should be a time of just enormous celebration at the incredible things we've achieved as a country, and I think President Trump will lead in that.
Well, I think there's probably a little more space to do that as long as we get to Friday. Vic, always great to see you.
Good to see you.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.